Over the years, I've made no secret of the fact that I do not like the story of Injustice. And more recently on the Combat Kings podcast, I've discussed how I don't think Injustice 3 is coming anytime soon, nor do I think there's all that much more that can be done with the setting, given we've done the two big stories. The Civil War that serves as the foundation, and the big threat both sides reunite to deal with, leading to Clark's chance at redemption, which he ultimately refuses. But I did recently come up with an idea that I think could work decently well. So let's discuss my concept for Injustice 3. Given the sheer number of characters that have died over the course of the series, in the backstory, during the games and in the comics that are partially canon, the logical final chapter for the Injustice saga is a loose adaptation of Blackest Night. What is Blackest Night? It's a big event comic from the end of the post-crisis DCU, in which we discover a long-term scheme cooked up by one of DC's numerous manifestations of death, Nekron, and his disciple, Black Hand. The scheme is to wait for a lot of heroes to die, and then use Black Lantern rings to revive them from the dead under their control. And yes, this even works on those who have died and come back to life already. You can see why this is a logical finale to Injustice, yes? With so many killed by the regime, this serves as an almost nostalgic look back at the narrative, as well as a physical manifestation of Superman's sins. Now, which ending do we follow from the last game? The Superman one. I know the Batman one is the default and we already have a sequel to the Superman one in the Masters of the Universe crossover, but this is the best fit for a number of reasons. One, it avoids the repetition of, a new threat has emerged and we must release Superman from prison to face it. Two, it allows us to explore Clark's vision for Brainiac's tech for a chapter or two before his grand empire is torn down by the dead. And three, it allows us to address the Batman voice issue. Injustice Batman will struggle to feel like the same character if Kevin Conroy isn't playing him, but we have to try if the series continues with the same universe. He didn't speak in the Superman ending, so we can just say his voice has been affected by his augments even after he gets his free will back. We could also have a second Batman who has taken up the mantle to give hope to what's left of the insurgency, though that does run the risk of rehashing existing stories. In the He-Man crossover, it was Damian Wayne, and the Injustice 2 comic had Red Hood do this as a villainous Batman. We could ignore that the comic killed off Tim Drake and have him fill in, but I have another idea for Tim. The take I'm presenting here will not use this idea, but it's an option. Now, the plot is that Nekron is taking advantage of all the conflict to amass his army. It's important that he not be revealed to have manipulated Clark at all. That would diminish the fall and absolve him a bit of his many crimes. His actions must remain his own to not completely ruin what the series is trying to do, even if it would somewhat justify his depiction differing from the norm. At most, maybe Nekron's manipulated Wonder Woman somewhat, possibly with help from Ares. But the main plot is, Nekron will amass an army of those who've died due to Superman's regime, they will tear down all he has achieved with his Iron Fist, and he will be forced to finally face the consequences of his many horrid actions. I don't know if it's a good idea to introduce the idea of normal resurrection to this setting, given how the deaths are an important part of the series, so the Sleeper Agents idea from the original story is probably best left out for this version. Not all of the Black Lanterns need to be on the roster, some can be story NPCs and some can be reserved for DLC, maybe divided into packs like the last game, Hero Pack, Villain Pack, Undead Pack, or something. And those that do make it are not depicted as Black Lanterns on Character Select or as their default skins just for the story. MK11 did that and it sucked. So, who can we expect to see on the roster of the Undead Army? First, the returning characters. Solomon Grundy, he's not dead but he's perfect for this. The Joker, Lex Luthor, Shazam, Martian Manhunter, Gorilla Grodd, and Doomsday. Say Superman killed him after the last game, or show it happening at the start. I don't know how Billy can have the Shazam powers in his current state, but I'm sure an excuse can be conceived. Through costumes and premiere skins, we'll also see Black Lantern's Green Arrow, Dick Grayson, John Stewart, Hawkman, and Jay Garrick, who died in the Year Zero comic. In Chapter 1, we follow Green Lantern mourning the loss of Coast City from the last game. He's close to becoming Parallax like in the comics, but is confronted by a group led by Atrocitus before he can. We learn that his motive for trying to turn Hal into a Red Lantern last time before buggering off was that he knew about the Black Lantern threat and was seeking recruits. That didn't pan out, so he went to Sinestro, Star Sapphire, and even Starro. I know Sinestro died in the Injustice 2 comic, but the last game was already very wishy-washy about whether or not certain aspects of the comic were canon, so we're just going to continue in that vein and be selective for when it benefits the story, and ignore it when that benefits the story. And a quick aside about Starro, he has different hosts as costumes, and his moveset involves a lot of zombie-like swiping and scratching, along with some undisciplined kicks. You could also make it that in arcade mode, he serves as more of a mimic fighter, who moves on to each match as the opponent he just defeated. Anyway, Carol brings the group to Hal to ask him to try to convince Superman of the threat. After a chapter or two of classic Injustice conflicts between Superman's regime and the now Supergirl-led insurgency, Clark is forced to agree to the alliance when faced with the undead Martian Manhunter, one of his earliest kills / the first friend he killed. He announces a ceasefire with the insurgency, and the two sides come together to face the Black Lantern Scourge. Some of them can die along the way and become enemies. Some of the Black Lanterns can be cutscene only characters, since we already have around a third of the roster filled with Black Lanterns. And yes, even if they don't return, they will be acknowledged. Say Dr. Fate isn't on the roster, the Lords of Order are protecting his body to keep him from being used like this. Here are a few other notable events that happen in the plot. Black Lantern Green Arrow faces his counterpart and Black Canary, and the games can actually include their son here. Undead Regime Ollie is the one we play as here, and he is bested not by fighting him, but by having his counterpart reveal that their son is his with Dinah, who was pregnant when he was killed. This gives him the willpower to resist just enough so that he can be stopped. Earth 3 Ollie goes to do it so Dinah doesn't have to, but she decides she has to do this for her former love, tearfully disintegrating him with her canary cry. That's 3 for 3 on Green Arrow being mind controlled in these games, and marks the point where all three have had it happen. Diana is once again confronted with her past actions, Black Lantern Steve Trevor and Amazons being used specifically to torment her. Unlike last time, this one will actually have an effect on her. She doesn't have to become a good guy, but she will at least be forced out of her warrior mindset and save some civilians like a real hero. Just have her finally see what a monster she is and try to be the hero she believes she was. Maybe Nubia shows up following up her ascension to the Wonder Woman role in the Injustice 2 comic. Hawkgirl returns, following her ending from the first game that revealed she'd been under mind control to serve the regime, now fighting against that very thing, now inflicted by Brainiac's tech. She comes face to face with Hawkman, who was killed in Year 5. She has to face up to her own part in the regime's rise and attain redemption through her renewed heroism. Joker comes for Harley.
You what?
She already overcame her fear of him, yes, but this is actually him, not a hallucination, so it's not quite the same. This is where Jason Todd steps in to help her, and we get a cutscene fight of the two kicking his ass, and maybe we choose who will finish him off in gameplay. Damian and Jason face Dick and Tim. Like in the first game, Nightwing mechanically has a staff moveset and an Eskrima one. The Dead Robins use one each, and Damian can use both. Damian is confronted with his killing of Dick and his corruption of the Nightwing mantle. Damian acknowledges his failings and either brings up that Dick did forgive him in the comics during his Deadman era and that Dick is being manipulated here, or we ignore that for the game canon and let Dick's anger be more authentic. Tim, of course, confronts Jason on his murderous ways, accusing him of helping build Nekron's army for him. Ultimately, the heroic Robins are laid to rest, and the two failed Robins set out to save their father from Superman's control, allowing him to take part towards the end. Barry Allen figures out a way to restore Black Lanterns through the Speed Force, but it's a drain on his life force. He goes out of his way to ensure Eobard Thawne's ancestor, killed by the regime as he stated last time, gets to be restored from Black Lantern so he can go on to continue his bloodline, restoring Eobard's place in the timeline and allowing him to return to his time. All a big act of redemption for the suffering he helped cause with the regime. He also restores Grodd, declaring that he's no longer the regime toady he once was. After making peace with his nemesis, Barry then faces his mentor Jay Garrick. Through a big running sequence after the story mode fight, Barry restores Jay to life, but he's been doing this all chapter, and his time is up, disintegrating a la Crisis on Infinite Earths. We see a statue of him at the end, but Jay will take up the mantle again for the time being. Maybe he switches to Yellow Boots in tribute. Some might propose Wally West as a Black Lantern, but he has no presence in the games yet, and adding a fourth Flash would bloat things too much. It's better to focus on the three that have been part of the main series. The final chapter is, of course, Superman's. He will face Black Hand, who taunts him over his part in bringing the Black Lantern so many powerful recruits. He will also reveal the most dangerous Black Lantern to Superman, Lois Lane. Yes, she actually gets to be a character in the games and not just a plot device. Not actually part of the roster, but she's here to chastise Clark for how far he's fallen. This then leads to the deciding moment for the endings. She attacks with a limited version of Starro's moveset, swiping and kicking at you. Do you stand there and take it, or do you fight back? If you hit her, she dies in one and Superman is truly lost. If you hold back, then when she's done half a bar of damage, you get a cutscene where Clark apologizes to Lois, holds her and manages to get through to her. She asks him to kill her and says, "Let me be the last." Clark then moves on to the Nekron fight. If he refused responsibility, he kills Nekron and takes his power to revive all the dead as his thralls, with all those friends he killed now being back and they all love him again and everything's great. And once the insurgents become Black Lanterns, they will too. Delusional. If he accepted responsibility, he defeats and banishes Nekron. He now returns to prison a changed man, wanting to be the man he used to be, leaving the other heroes to rebuild what he destroyed until the day Bruce and Kara feel he can be trusted again. Here's a sample of the story fights I've conceived. Some characters aren't on the list of opponents, but have to be when the full fight list is decided. The average Netherrealm story mode is 12 chapters long. For what is likely to be the last story mode of the Injustice series, maybe we can get it up to 15 like in M1K. I don't expect there to be a story expansion, but if there was, I'd base it around magic, perhaps having a Trigon plot off to the side, trying to usher in a magic-based undead army, with Zatanna and Constantine having to stop Raven and Trigon. Now for the roster. Injustice 1 had 24 characters in its base roster, Injustice 2 had 29, and Netherrealm's most recent game had 23. For the big finale to Injustice, let's assume they're allowed to go for 30. Here is my roster idea, with a selection of Premier skins included for story reasons. DLC I imagine being similar to the last game, 3 packs of 2 DC characters and a guest. The DC side are a mix of characters conceived for past entries, characters who made the mobile versions, and Swamp Thing so he can have a story cameo in this plot about the Rot. As for guests, He-Man is a good fit, given there are at least 2 crossovers between him and DC, and one of those was with Injustice itself. Another is Spawn, toned down a bit from MK11, but the Hellspawn is a natural fit for a superhero game about the dead coming back. Liu Kang is our MK guest, complete with a Revenant skin, maybe even 3D era zombie Liu Kang as a Black Lantern too. And that is my pitch for Injustice 3. Going for a story that shouldn't feel too much like a rehash of the last one, starting in an unexpected place that allows us to justify Batman sounding different, and it looks back over the entire Injustice series and acts as Superman's ultimate confrontation with his past actions. I think it's a pretty good concept, but what about you? If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? You get early access to new videos for just $1 a month, and Mortal May is starting soon. If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended video is Injustice 3 Build the Roster by Thoggy's Arcade. It's a little old, but it's always fun to watch him rationalise his roster ideas, including how the characters play and what the overall story is.